This little boy is Lin Kuman, a huge fan of superheroes who is determined to become one. He lives in New York with his family. Attending a prestigious school and surrounded by tutors, Lin has everything he wants, except for one thing: a proper villain. In a world deprived of fiends and ignored by aliens, the only way to practice superhero skills is make-believe, which is not always fun for the constantly punched and kicked grown-ups around him. The school principal visits his family to return their money, begging them to enroll this devil spawn elsewhere. No one at the school can take his barbaric behavior anymore, and the poor man has his own broken tooth to prove it. Lin's parents are mortified. They get so angry that they decide to send him back to China to live with his uncle, a young man named Yuan Lai. As an attempt to keep the little rascal under surveillance, he'll attend the same school where Lai teaches music. Lin's adventures in China begin even before his plane lands. Teacher or not, Lai is not exactly the most responsible guardian ever. Already late to pick up his nephew at the airport, he makes a stop to talk to Anran. She is also a teacher at that same school, and Lai has a major crush on her. He offers to give her a ride, but she chooses to take a taxi. Now he is super late. Lin is not the kind of boy who sits still and waits. In fact, he's already moving towards the exit. Crossing the terminal at the same time is a young woman named Nu Yuliang. She is carrying the case and talking on the phone. From the conversation, we can tell the case contains something highly valuable. The person on the other side is her partner, Cheng. Just when she's telling him that they're about to get rich, a pile of luggage falls in front of her. A stranger then comes and quickly snatches the precious case. The same man who staged the accident makes sure to keep Nu busy while the other guy runs away. Outside the airport, the thief bumps into Lin. The boy is ready to get in the taxi but changes his mind. That guy can't be late to catch a flight, as he's running in the opposite direction. He must be a wrongdoer, and that's a job for a superhero. Carelessly ditching his own belongings, Lin chases the man to the parking lot. While Lai is desperately looking for his nephew all over the airport, the thief is face to face with the insane child. He tries bribery first, but that will never work with a true hero. So he has no choice but to beat up this little boy. And of course it doesn't go that way at all. Lin has practiced how to kick since he learned how to walk. Not to mention he has been dreaming of a chance like this to fight crime. Once the criminal is flat on the floor, Lin gets a bit curious. He opens the case and finds a rabbit inside it. Apart from a distinctive red mark on its forehead, it looks like an ordinary bunny. The boy reports the theft to the police, but the officer thinks it's a prank call. Laughing at the joke, he tells Lin he can keep it as his pet. Right after that call, the police officer has to deal with a frantic Lai reporting his missing nephew. Not knowing how to tell Lin's parents that he managed to lose their son before they even met, Lai drags himself home in despair. Weird noises are coming from his apartment, so he decides to come in through the window. That is not a good idea. He is received with a kick in the face by his sweet nephew. The boy tells him that he simply took a taxi to the address he was given. He couldn't answer his calls because he dropped his phone while fighting the rabbit snatcher. Poor Lai is now beginning to regret the whole arrangement. Meanwhile, Nu and Cheng are trying to explain what happened. Their boss is a dangerous gangster. He is absolutely furious and vows to make them suffer if they don't retrieve the animal as soon as possible. Could this mean-looking gangster be a secret bunny lover? Too soon to tell. Apparently, Nu didn't even know what the case contained. All she knows now is that her life depends on getting it back. On the next day, Lai takes his little bundle of mayhem to school. Lin's teacher is none other than Anran, and it's painful to see his uncle lose command of spoken words in her presence. Just when the boy is ready to start mocking him mercilessly, a little girl walks past him. Her name is Zaina, and he is mesmerized by her. Here is where he differs from his uncle completely, as he confidently approaches the girl right away. Lai steps in quickly and tells him to cut it out. They're both too young for that stuff. In the classroom, And Ran perpetuates that ritual where new students are forced to stand in front of everyone and talk about themselves until the bullies can find a perfect angle. But the cliché is a bit different this time because Lin is not uncomfortable at all. Getting used to the spotlight is part of hero training after all. So he proceeds to tell the other kids that he is a superhero and that they should not hesitate to call him whenever a villain attacks one of them. Xena's face is a bit hard to read at this moment. Maybe she's thinking about how every superhero's girlfriend ends up abducted at some point of the franchise. The rest of the kids can barely wait until Ran is called somewhere else and leaves the room. A group of mini hooligans surrounds the newcomer immediately, ready to bring down his confidence to acceptable levels. Loud noises are heard from the hallway. But when the teacher gets back inside, it's pretty obvious that it was Lin who took them down a peg. Shocking news travels fast in school, so our hero is soon approached by another group. These are older boys and their leader is called Big Bro. He demands Lin to bow down to him, which you surely guess, not gonna happen. This time though, Lin decides to delay the demonstration of superiority. He challenges those boys to a Kungfu contest. The students gather to see them fight, and Lin puts on a great show for them. Big Bro is demolished in a few seconds, and then a group of much older boys gang up on Lin. Everyone is astonished to see that they are also defeated with little effort. Big Bro has no choice but to acknowledge the little guy's victory. Not wanting to go down without a last counterplay, the gang agrees to regard Lin as their new master only after one more challenge. He must defeat Mr. Ma, their gym teacher. Later that day, the rabbit thief is playing pool at a local pub when Nu and Chang suddenly grab him. They begin to threaten the man if he doesn't give them back their case. To his total embarrassment, he is forced to confess where his bruises came from. The little boy also took the case. Luckily for him, that story can be confirmed because he still has the kid's phone. He gives it to them in exchange for his physical integrity. With Lin's photos and personal information, the criminals are ready to go on a boy hunt. In the morning, Mr. Ma is teaching basketball techniques when he sees something that makes him very upset. Lai is walking side by side with Ran, who is apparently the only dateable female in the institution. Basketball aside, Mr. Ma can't really tell what is definitely out of his league, so he has also nurtured a longtime crush on Ran. Intimidated by Lai's evident advantage in that department, he decides to take action. Both teachers are summoned to assist him in a demonstration. Ignoring completely what he had to teach those kids, he begins to hit Lai with the ball repeatedly. The young man is hurt and humiliated in a horrible way. Mr. Ma only stops when his rival gets a nosebleed. Little does he know that such abuse is being watched by a superhero, who also happens to be his victim's nephew. At lunchtime, Ran sits with Lai to talk about what happened. She is clearly worried about him. Lin takes that opportunity to rudely interrupt them. Taking the seat next to his uncle, he tells them they should be a couple. Lai starts to look for a place where he can bury his face forever, but Ran doesn't look very averse to the idea. So the boy puts their hands together and repeats the advice, not noticing that the gym teacher is coming. Mr. Ma is livid at the sight of them holding hands. He begins to yell at Lai and accuses him of harassing Ran. This is happening in front of all her students, which makes her ashamed and distressed. She storms out of the room before Lai can defend himself. In the afternoon, Lin has gym class. It's the perfect chance to avenge his poor uncle and redeem himself, so he challenges Mr. Ma to a fight. The arrogant teacher laughs at him and even ties his own hands behind his back to show the kids how easy this will be for him. Needless to say, that was a stupid move. He gets his rear kicked in several creative ways before deciding to untie his hands. It doesn't make much of a difference. The kids are rooting for Lin now, and Xena looks very impressed by his skills. That only infuriates the teacher even more. So much so that he doesn't even see the principal coming in while he prepares to land a nasty punch on his student. He ends up hitting the principal instead. After school, Mr. Ma somehow convinces his boss that it was all the boys' fault, and Ran is called in to answer for her students' unruly behavior. Lai is also there as the boys' guardian. They can barely look at each other. Unlike these two, Zina and Lin are getting along very well. She gives him a band-aid for a small cut on his hand, and they play with the rabbit for a while. Zina is so happy with the pet that Lin lets her take it home for a few days. Then a large group of boys come to see Lin, respectfully asking for his guidance. And it's not just Big Bro's gang honoring their deal. All of them want Lin as a leader. He's happy to accept the position and names the new gang the Kungfu Boys. By now, Niu has worked out all about Lin. Cheng gets Lai's home address, and they break in while he's at work. The case is right there in plain sight, but it is empty now. Still on a need-to-know basis, they only know that there should be some kind of animal inside. That's too bad for Lai's pet turtle. They put it on the case as soon as they see it, and take it to their boss. This is the last straw for the bunny-loving gangster. Outraged at their incompetence, he threatens to unleash his lady fighters on the dumb duo. Niu is locked up as a hostage and Cheng is given a last chance to fix their mess. To get his friend back in one piece, he must bring the rabbit alive. That evening, Lai takes his nephew to a restaurant and opens up about Ran. He is helplessly in love with her. Now that Mr. Ma ruined their friendship, he feels totally miserable. Sad to see his uncle like that, Lin comes up with a plan. Pretending to be Lai, he writes a letter to Mr. Ma and proposes a Kung Fu challenge to determine who is more deserving of Ran's love. Ignoring the absurdity of it, the teacher agrees with the terms. He seems happy at a chance to date Ran, even though it doesn't say anywhere in that letter that she was even informed about this madness. Arriving at the school gym, Mr. Ma finds only Lin waiting for him. The boy reveals the deception and says that the actual challenge is between them. He wants him to leave his uncle alone and stay away from Ran. The gym teacher refuses the new terms of engagement, but the boy won't take no for an answer. The screams alert both Lai and Ran, who come running immediately. They stop Lin before he turns Mr. May into teacher soup. Ran picks up the fake letter and reads the challenge proposal. Thinking that it's really from Lai, she is deeply insulted to be seen as a prize. While Mr. Ma is rushed to hospital, Lai yells at his nephew and blames him for that last nail on his coffin. He tells the boy to leave him alone, forgetting how literally he takes everything. Lin walks away in the pouring rain. When Lai calms down and realizes the boy is gone, he feels terrible and starts to look for him. That's when Ran calls him to say that Lin showed up at her door. Lai is not the only one who's miserable tonight. That missing rabbit is driving Cheng crazy, and he's running out of time. In the morning, he decides to find that boy and beg him to return the pet. Right now, Lin is with Lai at the hospital. And Ran and Zina are also there because everyone is visiting Mr. Ma whether he likes it or not. That's when the kids see a picture of their pet on the front page of a newspaper. It turns out that the fluffy fellow is a recently discovered species of enormous scientific value. That rabbit is the only specimen on the planet. But now it's been stolen from the lab, and the authorities have no leads on the case. Lin and Zina are excited to tell the adults that they're about to save the world. And Ran agrees to take them to Zena's house to fetch Mr. Fluffy and take it to the authorities. But the moment they step out of the hospital, a disheveled Cheng is there to intercept them. He tries to reason with the children, but he's past the deadline now, and the boss' patience is over. The lady fighters show up with a bunch of henchmen. They put Zina and Ran in a van, telling Lin where to take the rabbit if he wants to see them again. About an hour later, the boy arrives at the location with a new case. He makes the gangster untie the girls before handing it to him. The man quickly realizes that it is also a new rabbit. Lai had stopped at a pet shop on their way there. Zina manages to escape before he puts the henchmen after them. When they meet Lai outside, Lin says they still haven't Ran. His uncle makes the heroic decision to go inside to save her, But of course it doesn't work at all. The henchmen grab him too in no time, giving Lin one more victim to save. He sends Xina to find help and gets back inside. Fighting a bunch of highly trained henchmen is no problem for this miniature of a nutjob, but the big boss has a surprise for him. And Ran and Light are suspended in a dangerous trap. The gangster threatens to cut the rope if Lin doesn't give up the location of Mr. Fluffy. Suddenly, there's a series of explosions all over the place. When the smoke subsides, we can see the Kungfu boys have come to the rescue. They are led by Mr. Ma, fresh out of the hospital. The gangsters are defeated and Nu is finally released. So is the human piñata, but Ran and Lai land safely on a pipeline. A few weeks later is the talent show at their school. And Ran is Lai's girlfriend now, and he sings a romantic song to her. The audience patiently endures it, waiting for the main event, the Kungfu boys. And this is the end. This was a recap of the 2016 movie Kungfu Boys by 80 Films, starring Chaney Lin and Rulin Liu. So, which villain was the worst? And how do you think Lin's story would be different if he had stayed in the US? Let us know in the comments below with #CinemaRecap. Until next time.